Hey everyone, my name is Kimberly. I'm based out of Los Angeles, California.
Hmm.
Originally from Southern Maryland on the East Coast,
Okay.
and my business is Padget Pilates.
Hmm.
I started officially, I'd say, being a business about a year and a half ago. Yeah, that's
Okay.
when my Pilates business, I would say, was less just like teaching my mom and more
Yes.
business.
Right. That's exactly it. So is it
Yeah,
like, um, so basically it's like a pandemic baby, like a COVID baby, so to speak, like my business behind me.
kind of. Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm also a professional dancer.
Okay.
So Pilates and dancing kind of morphed in this kind of beautiful, chaotic way to come to fruition where it is now.
Yes.
I had a hip surgery about 2019.
Hmm.
So it was a really interesting year because I had booked a TV show, which was very exciting. And, but I was also suffering a lot of hip pain at the same time. So we
Okay.
filmed at the beginning of 2019, found out I needed hip surgery. We filmed in January. I had hip surgery at the very beginning of April. And then 1 week before that surgery, I did my first mat like workshop for a few weeks.
Okay.
And I was kind of transitioning out of the bar world and into more of the Pilates world. And I did this mat course to kind of feel it out, see exactly what Pilates was because I hadn't taken a lot of it.
Yes.
And loved it, fell in love, had my hip surgery, and then 6 months later started my comprehensive training. So I
Okay.
was
Good.
actually using Pilates to rehab my hip six
Yes.
months after hip surgery.
Amazing.
And I think it was kind of a crazy situation because I was kind of relearning my own body, but
As I was gonna
learning
say.
Pilates at the same time. And I think it might have been one of the best things for me. It was very frustrating
Hmm.
because there are certain positions that I couldn't do, very foundational positions that I couldn't do yet.
That's good.
But you learn in the world of Pilates that
Yes.
you're working with a lot of people that are similar to that. I mean, not every not everyone coming into your Pilates class, it's just like bam, bam, ready to go. Like
Hmm.
typically people find Pilates because of an injury.
Right.
So, and as a dancer, being able to do many things without even thinking about it twice, I think it
Hmm.
was actually the best thing for me because it really put a perspective of it that I think I would have never been able to get to for many
Absolutely.
years in the
Yep.
future.
For sure. I'd
So,
accelerate that process.
yeah,
I just wrote the word empathy down
yeah,
because that's it right there, right?
absolutely. I mean, and empathy is such a huge part of it. Like, you you need to be a good teacher, you need to know how to teach and things like that, but if you can't empathize with who you're teaching,
Hmm.
you're not going to build that rapport, you're not going to build the trust, because you
Yes.
need to, even if you're not exactly feeling what they're feeling, you need to know that you know they're not going to maybe do it exactly what you're envisioning in your head, or
Hmm.
how you think it should look, or things like that. Like
Right.
you build on the wins, and you need to be able to look at it from that perspective, and that really did help me. So I think a lot of my clients are shocked that I am able to be as empathetic as I am. And it's not just hip surgeries with me. When you have hip problems, it goes down the chain.
Yes.
So, and I'm not like a spring chicken in the dance game, so like any little thing can kind of
Yes.
go the wrong way for me.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
always looking at it from that point of view with my clients as well. So
Hmm. This is look, Kimberly, this is kind of like a special conversation for me because I've spoken with a lot of Pilates people who were dancers,
mhm.
professional dancers, and like in their mind they're still dancers, and that's great. But like you're still dancing while
I
doing this Pilates
am.
thing.
I am. I'm really, it's been a long journey. We can dive into that too. I feel like we're getting right into it. I
Sure.
love it.
Yeah, that's just okay. Yeah.
Um, my dance career has been a long journey, and I kind of love that you kind of were like, what's the message for like people for today?
Hmm.
And my journey's been so all over the place that I love hearing when like people took time off, or, you know, there's people that I'm dancing with now that have been not dancing for 6 years and now they're back in the game and going in a different
Yes.
direction.
Right.
So like many things, but I think especially with dancing, there's so many styles, there's so many ways of expressing how you dance, that
Yes.
just because you're not doing it in the format that you used to be doing it in, it doesn't mean that there's not another opportunity and a paid opportunity for you down the future. I
Right.
mean, you can continue just doing it for yourself and loving life, and like that's great. But if you want to make money off of this, I think that it's I think that it's doable. Maybe not your only gig, but
Right.
if you want to keep it in your life and you want to make some money off of it, I do think
Mhm.
it's possible. Um,
You're
yeah.
almost talking to, like, when I had Andrew Nicholson on last week. He's a pro basketball player and he was in the NBA, and then he went to China, and then he went to Korea where he is now, and he's loving being in Korea. Is a conversation, a higher level conversation about identity.
Hmm.
So when you're a professional dancer, there's an identity attached to that that
Yes.
you don't want to let go of as well, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I love that. I loved your whole intro because I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly along the lines as I feel.
Mhm.
I mean, so you have your identity as yourself,
Yes.
and what you think is making it or making you happy, and then you have what the rest of your community world feels like. And
Perceives of you, right?
yeah, and it definitely doesn't typically work out. Not
Yeah.
that, not in a harmful way, just in a way that like the very small wins in this industry that no one else really sees,
Yeah.
you know, not just making it on television and, you know, and making it in a way that people can recognize your successes, doesn't
Hmm.
take away from any of, doesn't make it a less value. And that's something that you really have to train yourself to just accept and appreciate.
Yes.
Because if you can't do that, it tends to get in the way of
For sure.
going to the next thing.
So would you say that the TV show, is that's like one of the higher achievements in your dance career, or have you done other things that were
Um,
like better than that
Absolutely.
in the back in the past?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and not from even a dance perspective, but a just life and a dream job, really.
Mhm.
I'll touch into that in a second, but I
Sure.
will say, yeah, my career. I mean, I've danced so a little. I heard somebody was from New York, so I danced for the Knicks for 5 years back in like my 20s, and that was my
Okay.
first professional job.
All
So
right.
I came out of college, went up to New York City because a friend told me the auditions were going on. I'm not even gonna lie, I maybe had heard of the New York Knicks. But I was from Maryland, so it's not like something, you know,
Yeah.
basketball wasn't my, you know, push in life, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. My now husband, and we were dating then, huge basketball fan. So he was like, yeah, like he was all about it.
Yeah.
But I went up kind of on a whim almost.
Yeah.
Thanks. I went up on a win almost, and then that year was so crazy. I auditioned. It was a week-long audition, and I kept
Wow.
making it through cuts.
Yeah.
And then the final audition was literally at like a nightclub in New York, and it was So You Think You Can Dance style. Like we had judges, and they critiqued you,
Wow.
and then they called the final team. And at 21 years old, I was left standing. And then I literally packed up my bags and moved to New York City on like graduating college. So
Wow.
like no money,
Yeah.
no, just like on a dream and a bag. Got on
Yeah.
the Greyhound. So
Crazy.
that's kind of where my dance career started.
Right.
And it was a great, yeah, it was,
That's like
you know, it
winning a,
was a,
is that like winning a championship ring in the first year on a team? Like you're sitting on the bench and the team wins the championship. You're like, yeah, I got a ring. That's what's up. You didn't really like
you know what?
work your way up to like working for the Knicks sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of was because, again, it's not just about the dancing. It was about the
Right.
life too.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Yes.
I went to school in Baltimore, so I was used to being in a city, but I grew up on a farm in Southern Maryland. So like in a small town. So the thought of, you know, the thought of actually living in New York didn't settle in my brain until I was looking for an apartment and realized, oh, I'm going to be living in New York City and like things aren't cheap.
Right.
So
I
like
could be living
I
with 4 people just to afford this.
exactly like
Yes.
my first apartment was like over like a Chinese food restaurant. It smelled like a Chinese food restaurant. It was a very small little stairwell. Like it was really crazy. So I had 5 amazing years on the New York Knicks, but it was another life experience because I love my family, but they didn't live there.
Hmm.
I'm very prideful, which I've learned post 30s that I guess that's another conversation. But just learning to like ask for help,
Should I be
basically.
writing down our side conversation that we need to circle back to? Because I'm
The
like,
things we need to circle back to.
yeah, okay, okay, go ahead.
Many life lessons that I've learned throughout my dance career. But I had 5 amazing years with the Knicks. I learned so much with that organization and just learning the professional world. It really did set me up for future jobs and how to
Yes,
act and conduct myself and how to do it just simply an interview because
yes.
it it was more than just the dance job. It was the lessons and the friendships.
Hmm.
I've been fortunate to gain some really great friendships from my dance job. So, but kind of tagging on now to my winding dance career. So I did the Knicks for 5 years and it was great. And my
Hmm.
last season on the team, I actually got married. I've been married for 10 years.
Oh,
And
nice.
another thing we could touch on marriage
Yes,
and
I
the
talk
art, the
relationships all
art,
day.
artist world.
Yes.
So I got married and then realized I wasn't yet ready to leave New York and leave my job.
Mhm.
So that was a whole conversation with my husband.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're married out there or have relationships, yeah, we can definitely talk about that today because it's a whole nother winding road. But I decided I wasn't ready to leave, and that was a hard conversation because
Mm,
we had just gotten married and got an apartment, and I was like, I'm not ready. And it's the best decision I could have ever, it was the best and hardest decision I could have ever made. Because if
yes,
I would have just said, I'm married and I'm going to move, I would have resented, I would
for
have resented
sure.
him
The
and my
decision,
decision
right.
forever. And I've actually been down that road of resentment with him. Probably watching now. So, hey.
You guys could
um,
talk about that off camera.
we're we're an open book. We really are. We've been through so much that at this point it really is. We're both open books.
Yeah.
But it was the best and worst decision I could have made. It was really hard, like not like almost not spending our first Christmas together married, like things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, so he was living back in Maryland or wherever,
Yeah,
or
so he
yeah,
was
okay.
just starting his career.
Hmm.
We're about the same age. So
Yeah.
we're 25, I got married. I
Hmm.
am 36 now.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was kind of just taking off in his career and I was just winding down with the Knicks, but I needed another year. I needed it. It was kind of one
Yeah.
of those things where it's like, I'm not sure if I'm done. I need
Yes.
to be sure.
Get some time for closure.
Yeah. And I
Right.
got it. So I had
Hmm.
my 5th season and it was great, but it was definitely time for me to just move on with life.
Yeah.
And so I packed up my bags after my last game, literally jumped on like the train or the bus, I don't even remember, and moved back to Maryland. And
Wow.
that's where you got to hold on to those dreams. So
Yes.
that's when
Well,
things got real.
so you had nothing to move back to? Do you have anything lined up?
I really didn't because it's so crazy. So when you go from like that to like getting married and then trying to figure out what that picture even looks like,
Right.
especially after doing your first year long distance married. And
Yes.
I'll circle back. We did long distance 4 or 5 years. We met in college. I moved to New
Mm,
York City, started
yeah.
my job, and we did long distance for 5 years and got
Yes.
married.
Wow.
I think
That's
we
a
could
test.
have a whole show about that.
It's February tomorrow, like I'm sure I'm gonna be hitting on some like relationship stuff with Valentine's Day and the whole nine. So
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. If
stay
you want to
tuned.
go that route, we can
Yeah.
save all that for then because that's a
Yeah.
whole nother story.
Oh, we could jump into it now too, but I'm assuming that's Robert, that's your husband saying hi, sweetie, like not saying hi,
Oh, that's
sweetie.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's Robbie. You can see him. He's
Yeah.
Robert Padget 3. Yeah, that's
All
my
right,
husband,
cool.
Robbie.
I'm assuming that was for you, not me. Hi, sweetie.
Maybe for both of us.
Right.
He's
So
downstairs.
you're basically a housewife in Maryland from being a dancer for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, and it was, you don't realize it's so crazy. You don't realize how much that plays on your brain until it really does happen. Because for me, I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move on. Like, I was 26 by that point, and I was like, I'm fine. Like,
Right.
I had kind of finished up my work here. I'm fine. I'm ready to move on. But what happens is you think about that job being over, but not, I didn't fully think about, oh, I've been dancing since I was 3 years old.
Right.
And then it
Yeah.
stopped. Like it
Abruptly.
literally
Yes.
just stopped right then and there. And I think it happens to a lot of people though.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, when you are working in this type of an industry, or I think in a lot of sports jobs, when it's over and you don't,
Yes.
your brain doesn't get to prepare yourself for that.
Actually, if I could just jump in there too, Kimberly, that actually reminds me of one of my clients who was a principal, and she was a principal for like 40 years, and then she's retiring.
Hmm.
So then I remember literally for that year, she's saying, I retire in the fall. I retire in June. I'm retiring in June. And that year of training her was basically struggling with the identity crisis of the fact that come June, you are no longer a principal. Like come April, because then the Knicks probably didn't make it to the playoffs, you
Not
are
that
no
year.
longer right. Or any year. That's a pretty safe bet.
I think one or two.
Yes, your job's done. Like your identity leaves with the last day of the school year, last year of the season. So I resonate with that with helping my clients work through that because it's on one level it's professional dancing, but on another level it's just transition, life transitions. How do we navigate that with our clients or with ourselves, so with
Hmm.
empathy for the people that we're working with, right? So it's all really tied together.
It really is. And like you said, I think in any profession or
You're about to say pro
I
athletes.
I think yeah, you can go through that.
Yes.
When you're an athlete though, you there's typically we can't all be I think I just read that Tom Brady is like retiring. we
Right.
can't we can't all make the decision. The decision
Hmm.
makes it for like if someone else has maybe made the decision for you, like
Yes.
you
You're
didn't.
cut, you're
Exactly.
injured, whatever. Yes.
And if you're not looking for that next, if you're not ready for that next thing, or you are but you're just like tired of the rat race, I mean it's
Hmm.
just done. So that part I wasn't quite, I hadn't thought about that part to be honest,
Yes.
because I've been doing this job for 5 years and I was excited. I was a newlywed. I was
Hmm.
excited to start the next chapter. When the next chapter came, I was like,
Hmm.
I'm not ready for this yet. I was ready to be married. I was not ready to give up that part of my life. And I didn't.
Gotcha.
So I didn't. I didn't.
Right.
And I easily could have. I very
Hmm.
easily could have just been like, this is it. So I found, so I'm the type of person that even if it's not available for me, I will find it.
Yes.
and, and I did. So fitness kind of started creeping into my life at that point in time.
Okay.
Zumba was like huge. Then I think it still is, but like
Yes.
I was a dancer. I didn't know much about Zumba. And I was like, okay, this is kind of where fitness took off for me. I started
Mm.
kind of there. I took like a 1 day workshop and was like, I can do this. So
Of
I
course.
basically started making up my own dances, and I was from a very small town. And fortunately, it was right on the water. It was pretty. And there was like this boardwalk. So I literally just created my own class and put up flyers because you could do that then.
Yes.
And people came and they loved it. So I was dancing still
Yep.
and teaching the dance fitness. And
Yep.
I did it for 2 summers. and people really liked it. I liked it. And then realized I needed more. So
Yeah.
I found bar and started teaching bar.
Yeah.
And in the course of all that, decided to look up dance jobs in the area. It's funny because I was from Maryland, near
Right.
Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
and there's a lot of opportunity there, but I was there in a child sense, not an adult sense.
Yes.
So
Makes
coming
sense.
back, it was almost like a different space
Because you
because
left as a girl and came back as a woman.
exactly, like as a
How
kid, I was at a
cliche is
dance
that?
studio
Yeah, for sure.
and in dance classes, so I was never looking for jobs.
Right.
Like, um so when I got back, I actually started exploring a different scene, a different world,
Mhm.
and I did wind up finding work. It's actually crazy because like I really could have just went, like, I went from New York, came home, and like it's over, but I
Yes.
decided to just start seeing what opportunities existed there.
Yeah.
And I would love, and that circles back around to kind of that space of, it may not be what other people think is the most successful thing, or not something they can attach themselves to, but
Mhm.
just kind of steering your own course and knowing if it's making you happy. It doesn't matter if I'm making X amount of money or if my
Right.
face is being plastered somewhere. Like, I have always been happy dancing, and so I looked for jobs that kept me happy,
Yeah.
basically. And I
Absolutely.
actually found a local amusement park. They were hiring for their like Fright Fest, their like Halloween show,
Okay.
and I did it. Like, and to be honest with you, working for an amusement park
Funny.
coming from
The
my
Knicks.
previous job, definitely a little different.
Yeah. So in the meantime, was your husband like, when are you gonna get a real job here? Like instead of doing like boardwalk gigs and like amusement
No,
parks?
no, and I'll be honest with you, we would not still be married if
If he
that
was
was
looking for you to, yeah.
his, we never would have started dating if that was his.
Well, that's just it, right? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, like, sorry to cut you off there, but I think a lot of
No.
times we have that kind of conversation. Like, well, what if
Mhm.
they wouldn't have made the cut earlier in the game?
It's so true. And again, this can be a whole other relationship topic, but I was always the girl in high school that didn't
Yeah.
have boyfriends. She didn't date. I was very kind of introverted. However, I did a lot of activities.
Okay.
So I think people thought, it's a very interesting dynamic, but people would always come to me for relationship advice. It was like a very interesting thing. I had
Okay.
none, but it was always a very kind of a like black and white viewed, not a lot of gray in between. Now that has changed
Yes.
as I've gotten older. I will say that.
Right.
But there are very fundamental things for me as like a woman and like my own mind and how I was brought up, that with a significant other dating, like, for me it was always like, I'm going to kind of trek my own path, and like
Yeah.
I'll listen to someone else, but like anyone that's kind of, why don't you do this, or like this will
Hmm.
make you more money, or like I think you should do that. Like, I'm open to suggestions, but
Right.
we definitely would not have worked if he was like, hey, when are you going to grow up and get like a real job or something like that. Like, that would not have worked, because
No.
like for me, I don't do what I do for money. I've never been a materialistic person. Like, if you're getting into this game thinking that you probably won't make it long either, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
my husband is super supportive. He's literally been supportive since day one. Like I said, we met in college. I was on my college dance team.
Hmm.
um, and it, we did 5 years long distance. We had been dating 6 months. I got this job in New York. Did not
And you're
think
like,
twice even about, are we going to break up? What does that do to our relationship? I literally got my bags. He went to the audition. He was there in the audience the final night that I made it,
yeah. Yeah.
cheering me on. And then went back home. And we didn't know what was going to happen, to be honest. But I was like, I couldn't think about that. Not at 21 years old.
Right.
I wasn't thinking, I was thinking, this is my career and this is something that I love.
Yeah.
To me, it was just like, it's just going to fall into place. And it did in a certain amount.
Yeah, for
Doing
sure.
long distance
I'm
for
sure it
5 years
wasn't
is
like
not
perfectly,
easy.
yeah, it wasn't smooth. I could appreciate that.
but it was smooth in the way that there was no bigger issues going on. Trust
Yep.
issues weren't a problem.
Yep.
Because if you have stuff like that, or me thinking, oh, like I need to go back home to be like anything like that, it wouldn't have worked. I would have
Right.
just kept going on with life. He would have kept
Yep.
going on with life,
For sure.
and it would have been what it was.
Yes.
So, yes, I don't like to say I'm fortunate that I have a husband that, because it's not fortunate. It's choice.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
Absolutely.
um,
So fast forward from working in amusement parks and boardwalks
yes.
to when did you find Pilates then?
Yeah, so Pilates came in. So, I will fast forward. So, my husband back in 2016 got a LinkedIn message and got recruited for a job out here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And we had always talked about moving to LA. And so, just like that, we moved. It was literally with a 2 month. This has been my life. If you're
Yeah.
seeing a
I'm
common
I'm
thread,
gathering the thread of just like up and go. Yes.
we go. So I moved here in 2016, and I got injured around 2018. It was pretty quick progression, and I was transitioning kind of out of the bar world and in Pilates. So 2019 is really when it started. I just like took that mat workshop and really fell in love.
Mhm.
And end of 2019 is when I got my mat, was when I started my mat certification. But it's interesting because I started it and then 2020 happened and COVID hit.
Right. So,
And as you
sorry,
know,
Kimberly. Oh,
trying to
sorry.
get a, so what was that?
No, go finish your thought there. Sorry.
Yeah, as you know, trying to get a certification, I mean, it's not easy in the way that you have to train. I mean, you have to go places and train. I didn't
Right.
have a reformer and a Cadillac like in my apartment. Like I
Right.
was training at a facility and everything shut down. So it got really interesting because I was about 6 months into getting my hours and training and stuff, and everything shut down. And we're in Los Angeles, so when it hit us, it hit and everything shut down. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
things just shut down.
Toronto, same. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very challenging. I was fortunate. There were a few studios that had kind of stayed open. They were attached to physical therapy, and I was
Yep.
able to train in that way. And I actually got my certification just this past October. So
Okay.
like
Great.
officially
Yeah.
got it tested and all that. I got it in October. So I'm actually pretty new to the Pilates world.
Hmm.
I've been doing it for about 2 years. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Okay.
But teaching wise, I'm actually pretty new.
Yes. That
It's
okay. So my first question I had for you with that was what was it about the mat work or just Pilates in general when you did it that made you think like this is really good? This like what was it about it that grabbed you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. It really was the mat work too.
Yeah.
As I mean, I don't want to say fun, but
Hmm.
as
No,
fun,
fun's accurate.
I'll put
Yeah.
that around it. As fun as the
Yeah.
equipment is,
Yes.
the mat work for me, especially coming off of an injury, was so needed. I
Hmm.
mean, the teachers I was working with, everything from pelvic alignment to just how I position a leg in the air. Like so many things started relieving pain for me,
Yes.
and also mechanically. So I'm a very logical thinker,
Okay.
and coming from different other modalities of fitness, I have always been inquisitive about how the body works and things like that. And
Yes.
when I
Right.
found Pilates, it all lined up for me. It all made sense. It
Yes.
made sense in the way that, oh, I can take this one exercise or I can take this one thing and continue to keep researching it and researching and finding different, it's like a science. It is a science.
Yes.
And my brain took to that quick. Because with other modalities, it's like you learn the exercise and then that was kind of it. Like,
Yes.
where do I build from here? And for me, when I found
Right.
Pilates, it was like, oh, there's science behind this. There is
Yes.
mechanics behind this. There's so much more I can learn about one thing that my brain
And,
just took off.
but you know, at the same time, because you're an artist and a mover, it already makes sense in your body.
Hmm.
So I've discovered, whether it was with Pilates or in like when I did my backgrounds in counseling, right? So when I did my
Hmm.
master's, it's almost like you work backwards to realize that you could put labels on the things that you already know and love.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And especially coming from a dance background.
Yes.
The two just pair to, I mean, it's derived out of ballet and parts of it. And it's just, they just made so much together. And to be honest with you, I'm not a trained ballerina.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, it's actually made me want, I've always had an interest in ballet, but I wasn't trained in it.
Hmm.
So I took to it from that way, as in like mechanically and working with dancers now that even are trained
Yes.
in ballet, but they still don't understand
Hmm.
function of muscles. So I'm
Yes.
able to work with dancers now that are far beyond me in that sense, in
Hmm.
a technical sense. But understanding these are the muscles we're using it, and I can break it down in a way that they can really understand too. So we
So
can get on the same level,
yes,
which,
so you're basically what you're doing for professional dancers is what I'm doing for professional athletes, where you could say you may be the best in on the field,
mhm,
but I understand what your body needs right now.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's so rewarding. It's so
Yes.
so rewarding. I don't work with a ton of professional dancers right now. I've actually the clients I've been working with, the road that's taken me down has been really humbling and amazing. I hope to work with more in the future. But when I do work with dancers, it's so rewarding for me because I've had so many injuries, and
Yes.
and the dance world hasn't changed that dramatically in the way that we protecting our dancers and
Interesting.
protecting, unless you're coming from a very high level ballet training where Pilates really is a part of that.
Yes.
If you're not training like that, which 90% of dancers aren't, the the way we learn to use our bodies and things like that, the
It's still
foundation
not.
of
Yeah.
protecting your muscles and your body really isn't there. So it's rewarding for me to work with dancers at any level because
Mhm.
I see you whacking your leg or doing jumps and things like that. And I just see your hips and I see what's going on inside. And I'm like, we can protect this so you can have a
Yes.
long career. Like,
Mhm.
thank
So
goodness I am where I am right now because it could definitely be a different direction with the dance background I came from.
yes.
I did team dancing for 9 years, which is brutal, brutal on your body.
So my question then is, what excites you more, working with a dancer rehabbing to get back onto the stage, or working with a healthy dancer who still has potential to get to that next level or to have add 5 more years to their dance career, sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. And one I actually don't think I can answer yet because I don't think I've worked with enough people, to be honest with you, to be able to
That's a
answer
good
that.
answer. Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
However, when I was looking before I really found Pilates, I was starting to think about maybe going back to school for like PT and stuff like that. And
Physical
my
therapy.
for sorry, yeah, for physical
Yeah,
therapy.
yeah,
Thanks for clarifying that.
yes.
And
It's personal training in Canada for the
for
most part. Yeah,
oh, it could be, yes, you're
yeah.
exactly right. And yeah, I think that my side of it was always preventative.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of where as much as I love working with people and getting them back, preventative for me, let's not get you there to begin with. Because there's so many
Hmm.
things that if I would have known more about my own body, even 5, 6 years ago,
Yes.
I could have prevented, because hip surgery is not fun. I am up and I'm moving, but there are still things
Yeah.
that are going on in this hip right now and it causes other problems. that I'm still dealing with. So it's not like we're done, you know,
Right.
like preventative for me. If you don't ever have to deal with this, and it's not always, you know, things happen.
Hmm.
But I do truly think that a lot of injuries can be prevented by preventative actions. And I think
Yes,
Pilates is just such a sweet spot of being
absolutely.
attainable. And it's funny you mentioned the mat work, because I actually love teaching mat classes because for
Hmm.
several reasons. But through COVID, more than anything, because it's people can do it. Like I
There's
can
no
teach a
excuses.
class online
Right.
to brand new people. I mean, I teach people from anywhere. I've had 75, 80 to
Hmm.
my 15-year-old niece that's playing volleyball, and I can teach that
Absolutely.
online. You can make it affordable.
Yep.
It's a lot more challenging when you're doing private equipment classes to
Hmm.
make it more affordable. But a mat class, you got a yoga mat? Yeah. You don't have a yoga mat? No,
That's
that's
fine
great too.
too. I that's why I love like Toronto, well, Mississauga area. Well, I guess sorry, the whole province, I should say, just is ending their lockdown today. So today's the first day that we're reopening the gyms and all those things.
Nice.
But over the last three
Good
weeks
for
while I was
you.
closed, I was offering like online classes, and I basically did it like I didn't do it here where I have like all this equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
I was doing it at home on the floor in our hallway on the second floor, and saying to people, you don't even need a mat. Do you have a
Mhm.
floor? If you have a
Yes.
floor, join me for Pilates,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, I mean, just to
Absolutely.
make it like baseline accessible to everybody, that now, okay, well, now you've learned the language, you learned some of the exercises, you've seen what you can do here. Come join me in my studio, or come join me in the community center, gyms, whatever it is. And I made it like a really low threshold entry point for people, because you're
Yeah.
right, the mat work, like you just need a horizontal service to work.
It's really true, and it's kind of one of those things that if I post about it or I show the class, I've had so much more interest from people that may have not have been interested, because it looks attainable too. Like if
Yes.
I do a pelvic curl off the ground, someone's like, ah, I might be able to do that,
Mhm.
as opposed to me swinging from the trapeze. You know, like that is like,
Yes.
oh, it looks cool. But
Right.
there's not a
Not
chance
for
that
me.
that's ever happening in my life. Whereas
Yes.
this is something that is like, and 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 I attach to that because that pelvic curl is what opens up my hip in the morning and gets me going. You know, like
Hmm.
the mat work, you know, I can appreciate this time during COVID, which is so crazy and so chaotic, and there's so much horribleness with it. However, it from a Pilates standpoint for me, it gave me a chance to appreciate the mat work in a way that I don't think I would have been able to if I was just already out in the world and teaching privates.
Yes.
And for me, it's changed my whole view on how I want to run my business, and
Right.
how I want to,
Yes.
and how I want to, my take on how I want to put Pilates out into the world.
I just said great and right at the same time. So I was like, yes,
Right?
that's
Was it?
exact great. Because what you're saying there is the fact that like you would have got swept into just doing what people needed, or what was going to get you money, or what was just, the people coming in the door, and you never
Yeah.
really would have found yourself in the work,
Yeah. And
right?
and and I really feel like I did. I mean, again, I'm just starting my Pilates journey, but
Yeah,
I'm so
which is
excited.
exciting.
It is
Yeah,
exciting because I feel like I really had time to kind of, and that might morph. It should.
it's supposed to. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
supposed to. But I really think I found what brings me joy out of Pilates at a very early
Thank you.
stage and will
Yes.
keep me going. Because I've done, you know, I bounced around from being in the entertainment industry. You do tend to bounce around a lot. I mean, dancing has
Yes.
always been the center, but like you have to take gig jobs and do jobs here and there. And I've taught a lot of fitness places and things like that. And never did I think I was going to find this much passion out of teaching. And it's not fitness for me. It really is just, it's such crazy, like it's so cliche, but it really is a way of life. Like,
Yes.
and it's ever changing and ever growing.
Hmm.
And the mat work just really, every day I can literally do almost the same thing.
Yes.
and find something new in it. And for me, that's like everything. Like, and
Yes.
feel different about it, or gain something. I don't
Can
know.
I
I
just
love to learn.
pause? I just want to jump in right there too, Kimberly. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm cutting you off because I'm like, yes, yes, yes,
Not at
yes.
all. No, go for it.
So people, Kimberly, you just said something there, and just for the crowd, like I've had people in here who have been teaching Pilates for 40 years, and they said the exact same thing that you just said right there. You could do the exact same exercises every single day and discover something new in the exercises.
Hmm.
Discover something new in your body about that exercise. So whether you have been doing this for 40 years or 2 years, people are saying the same thing, which speaks volumes to the system itself.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And the mentors that I've trained with and learned from, or classes that I take, you're absolutely right. Everyone says it across the board. And as a teacher, it makes it's not, easy is not the word. I'm trying to find the word, but you're not trying to, for me, you're not trying to come up with like choreography all the time. And for me, there's a
Yes.
space for me in the dance world
Yep.
that makes total sense. And
Right.
I love that. But from a Pilates aspect, it's hard to learn when you're constantly changing. And I
Right.
learned that with other modalities. It wasn't a bad thing. It was just that my brain wanted to get in there. Just
Hmm.
wanted to dive in and
Dive
like
deeper, for
dive,
sure.
yeah.
I got you.
And there was something stopping me. And with this, when you the repetition, that's how anyone gets better at a sport or anything you do. You have to be able to repeat it, and you have to be able to do that with like confidence.
Yes.
And when you're teaching, sometimes, the expectation is we want something new every day and
Yeah,
a
I need
new
to razzle
playlist.
dazzle with something new every single time they join. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, like that actually took the joy out of it a little bit for me, as I was
Hmm.
kind of doing that for 5 years before finding Pilates. Kind of took the joy out for me. And then when I found this, it was like, oh, I can keep doing the same thing. And that didn't make me like lazy. It made me,
That's so, I was gonna say there's a pressure too, right? Like you go, okay, I have a new class. I have to go on YouTube and find 10 new exercises to
mhm,
impress everybody.
yeah.
Like, I started to do it with my Tabata classes too back in the day where I give people exercises and I'd have to say, okay, everyone, we're doing the exact same exercise today. I want you to see if you can get more repetitions. I want to see if you can get a better roll up. I want to see if you can, you know what I mean? I almost have to
Mhm.
train and educate people so that they're out of this entertain me perspective.
I love that you put it that way, the entertain me perspective, because it is there, and I think that there's a place for it. Like
Right.
I definitely think there's a place for it,
Yeah, absolutely.
but not in this but in this space, yeah, it is a little different. And you do have to kind of give that like warning, like before the movie starts. Like
Yes. No,
you
you
kind of
do.
have to give that advisory so people are already in that
Advisory.
mindset,
Yes.
because but I will say, which has been nice, is that I started teaching a class um last year, and they had said to me, oh, the person that was teaching before you, like, we do like the same thing every day. And it was a Pilates class that I was taking over. And when they said that, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Not that
Guess what we're
I
doing?
don't do the same thing every day.
No.
However, I can see why people think they kind of do the same thing every day.
Yes, because it's the same. Yeah, yeah, I follow you. Yeah.
But I will say, I've been teaching this class for a year now, and they love it. They love the class, and that means so much to me, because I'm like, all right, the way I'm teaching is getting across to you in a way that you're not bored. You might be doing similar exercises, but the way I'm teaching them, I'm learning so much from you and the feedback,
Well
because
said. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's that. Well, there's a reciprocal education that's happening there, right? Like I'm giving
yes,
you the same exercise, but I'm going off of the feedback that you're giving me to just determine what direction we're going in, or do we stay with this exercise and make it more difficult, or can you listen? Like we're giving them an education on their body at the same time we're giving them an exercise.
absolutely. And in a class setting, that isn't always the easiest, especially when you're not there even.
Right.
So I love technology, and teaching through Zoom has been really so crazy, like on point. like I've learned a lot from teaching in that type of a style too.
Oh, you get so much sharper too, right? Like your cues, your verbal cues, your visual cues, for sure.
Absolutely. It really, and that's been, to be honest with you, that's been most of my teaching
Yeah.
because of COVID. So, but on the flip side of that, you're not getting all your angle, like you can't see at every angle all the time. There are a few tiny little drawbacks. So I really have to like, try to look at that picture window of all the people and see what is going on with my class. Because I want to make
Yes.
sure I'm challenging them, but make sure they're not just staring at me half the class either, being like, I can't do this.
That's fun. Like for me, that's I feel like those are the challenges that make us better as teachers, right? Like when you
Yeah.
have that group, how can it make it hard for them? How can they learn it? Like I said a minute ago, it's like educating them on their bodies, so I don't have to entertain them. I don't have to, like, they can find it in their body, and we're guiding them. I'm coming alongside you in your fitness journey. That's the way
Yes.
that I put it, as opposed to me being responsible for your body for the next hour.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, you couldn't have said that any better. I try to tell every person I teach, whether it is in a class setting or a private session, my goal is that you take what I'm giving you and you apply it. You're able to apply it either in a different type of workout, a different
Yes.
part of your life. Like my
Right.
goal is not to teach you for 45 minutes and then you leave. And when you come back, we're starting from base zero again. That is
Right.
not the goal. Like I'm not that person that's trying to like just make money off of starting over every time.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I want you to genuinely want to come back and want to almost be thinking about it how I am, like learning how you can, and I say that during my classes. I'm
Mhm.
like, let's hold this shoulder bridge at the top. What can you do right now
Yes.
to make this work for you more? And I give
Yes.
suggestions because
Right.
giving the suggestions obviously helps. But what can you do for yourself right now? Let's just hold.
Hmm.
What can you do for yourself? And I almost do that every single class. And usually it's in a shoulder bridge because in a shoulder bridge, it's such a supported position
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You
and
can
kind of
stay up there and
comfortable
explore. Yeah, exactly.
that
Yeah.
most people are comfortable to hold it, that they can move their feet around or they can open their chest more or they can maybe draw their ribs. It's just a space that like allows you
To
to
explore.
dig deeper in a
Yes.
safe way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kimberly, we definitely need to do a part two because we didn't circle back to marriage or your 30s.
Oh my gosh. And they go
So
hand in hand.
I know it. So, and yeah, for sure, for me too. So
Oh yeah. Wow.
February, it's been crazy. That's been like an hour. Like
I
it's
literally just looked up at my computer behind me and I was like, whoa, it's
59. Yes. Few comments here. Claudia saying, I loved your testimony, Kimberly. A total mirror. I wish you happiness, success, and
oh,
blessings.
thank
So
you, Claudia.
Claudia's,
That's really sweet.
yeah,
Thank you.
Claudia, stay
You as
tuned
well.
for part two. We're definitely gonna do a part two to this because if I didn't have an 11 o'clock, please.
No, that would be perfect. We will touch
Um,
base and make that happen.
Absolutely. And there's another comment from her earlier said, totally agree. That's why I love to dancers and athletes are my two favorite customers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
good
great to
stuff.
work with. Yeah.
Oh yes, and Robert Padget 3 say, what show are you on?
Oh,
Good
oh
plug
yeah.
there.
So quickly before we head off, right now I am filming for a show. It's called Sherman Showcase.
Okay.
It is on the first season is on Hulu. It is funny. It's like a sketch comedy, solid gold, dancing and singing. It's hysterical. The first season is streaming on
Okay.
Hulu. Go
Yeah.
check it out. It's funny. I think
Nice.
you'll enjoy it.
Can you
We're filming for
put it in the
season 2 right
chat?
now.
Put it in the chat
Oh yeah.
and actually if you could put it in the chat in the comment section when I repost this as well, just so people can find it, that'd be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'll put it here real quick. I'm not a quick typer. Okay, here we go.
It's so funny. It's like writing on a chalkboard in front of a classroom
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh, yeah. So yeah, there it is.
Right.
That's the name of the show, Sherman Showcase. You can check it
Okay.
out. It's funny.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
good time.
I'm gonna do a quick screenshot so we catch it. Ready? One,
Yeah.
two, three, smile. Hey. Done. All right. Kimberly, thank you so much. We're definitely going to do this again. Maybe we'll get a Valentine's Day episode in here at some point over the next few weeks, and
Yeah,
we'll
I think that's
piggyback
perfect.
on
That'd be great.
that. Nice. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you, and thank you to everyone who joined us today as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Bye.